Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thank you for joining me today. Today is part 2 of our series of questions that you have submitted, the viewers have submitted to my spirit guides. Thank you for joining. We're going to check this out because we've got some very compelling questions that you guys have asked the spirit guides. And basically, I'm going to be channeling the message. I'm about 60 to 70% absent during these things. So, you know, it's going to be whatever the guides have to say, they have to say. It is not the views. It does not represent the views of management, which is Susan. So if you have a complaint about what the spirit guides are saying, you know what to do. Call 1-800-SPIRIT-GUIDES and press 1 for complaints. All right, because I have nothing to do with this. And I often watch this video afterwards just to make sure that my camera didn't stop recording in the middle of it. And I think, why didn't they say this? Or why didn't they go more into this? Or I would have done this. Okay, so you and I both might be frustrated from time to time, but this is basically straight out of the horse's mouth, as they say down here in Texas. So our first question is from Mickiwalk. Thank you, Mickiwalk. Actually, before I go on, I'm sorry, Mickiwalk, for interrupting you. I'm going to tell you guys, people often say, how do I get a question in? Well, you can go to my main YouTube page, which is just click the logo and you'll see some tabs that say playlist, about, and you'll see when it says community. That's my community kind of bulletin board. And once a week, roughly, I ask for questions. The more involved you are with the channel, the more likely you are to see the community post on your regular YouTube feed. That's up to YouTube. It's not up to me. The whole thing is run by some algorithm controlled by a man behind a curtain somewhere. But that's the truth. If you comment and are involved, my community post, when I post it, will show up on your feed. That's why a lot of times you see some of the same names, because they tend to be ones that put questions in. Hopefully that makes sense. But if you have never done a question and you want to do a question, keep an eye on my community page. Usually I don't have I would say I don't have a schedule. I was going to say usually I do it on this date, but it really depends on what's going on in my life, because to do these videos is like a big commitment of time. They're usually part 1 and 2, and they can take 2 hours to film, and they can take an additional 2 to 3 hours to edit, because I like to watch the whole video to make sure, like I said, the camera didn't stop recording. So it's a big commitment, and I have to just work it into my week, and that's why I don't have a set time every week that I do it. Okay, I'm sorry, back to our regularly programming. Mickiwalk says, this is a weird question. Honestly, Mickiwalk, are there any weird questions in this day and age? But Mickiwalk has been thinking about Mike Pence. Now, that's the weird part of it. Since the last Q&A, I think it was his counsel who said during the Jan 6 hearings that Pence and his team would often pray together and ask for divine guidance. Sorry, Mickiwalk, for laughing. Do you think your spirit guides... do my spirit guides think that he is divinely guided? This is a really good question, actually, the guides are talking about. I think a lot of us in the spiritual community have had a teacher or a mentor or just someone we thought was someone we liked, or someone we thought was well guided and well intentioned. I think a lot of us have experienced a situation where we find out that that person is not who we think they are, that they are indeed pro-Trump. And then it throws all of us into this spiral of, wait a minute, how can you be spiritual? How can you be saying all these other things that make sense to me about love and acceptance and ascension, and then be supporting Trump, somebody that's obviously, in your view or in my view, so very opposite to that. Here's what I have to say about Pence. Right. So they're talking about They're talking about priests and preachers and ministers. And are they divinely guided? Some of these people that espouse hate from the pulpit, some of these people that espouse control of your wife, or really only read certain parts of the Bible or certain parts of the Quran, are they divinely guided, right? I mean, they think they are, but you know, we all have our ego. We all have our blind spots. We all have areas that we're just only wanting to hear what we want to hear. Okay, so that's what they would say about Pence. He's basically one of those preachers, ministers, whoever's religious leaders that cherry pick what they want to espouse, and that it matches what they want it to really be in their own opinion. Now, Mickiwalk's real question, because Mickiwalk goes on a little while here, and the question also is that sometimes he comes out on the right side of things. So sometimes Pence saved our republic. Pence saved the democracy. I'm going to throw in there Liz Cheney, right? Both of those figures, those political figures, espouse pretty way to the right center. I mean, way to the right of center. Maybe not far right, but definitely way to the right of center ideals. But yet they did the right thing. So I think these people, what your question is, how could he have saved the democracy and still be so right-wing? I think that's really your question. Besides the fact is he divinely guided? I don't think he's divinely guided. I think that if he was connected to the divine, he would be about love. And he would be about acceptance. And he wouldn't be about division. And he wouldn't be about judgment. So I don't think he's divinely guided. But regarding his role in saving our republic, it's interesting. Some of these Republicans seem to have this viewpoint of what they want America to look like, and it really may be where you can't get an abortion, and where there isn't welfare, and perhaps where there's not even Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. But in their mind, the Constitution is sacred. Okay, so you go back to supposedly, Clarence Thomas thinks that he wants to go back to the Constitution, in which case this man would not be a Supreme Court justice. But I don't know where the disconnect is for him in that situation. But that's where these people are, right? Their perfect union, the perfect union, the perfect United States, is maybe Trump has just a step too far for them. Trump is a step too far for them. We feel like both of those things are a step too far, but for them, that's where they draw the line. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and including Mickiwalk. Thank you for your question. Angelyn Williams, thank you for your question, says she recently read where the former Attorney General of South Dakota was impeached for misusing state resources. He says the governor, Kristi Noem, used her power to help her daughter and also misuse state funds. Is she going to face impeachment? When I'm doing these videos, I don't have any access to what hardly anything, because I'm kind of connected straight up to my spirit guides. But yes, they're reminding me that we talked about this, in one of those question and answer videos that I do probably 3 times a month. That she misuse of funds is what they're telling me. Misuse of funds, mischaracterization of funds. I mean, that's misuse of funds, but she's going to put a finer point on it and say, oh, oops, did I put those funds in this bank account? I meant to put them in this bank account. I just mischaracterized that spending, right? That's what she's going to say. She's going to say, this is an accounting problem. So sue me, I messed up on my accounting. I'm human. And that's going to play very well with the Republicans, because if you go and this is all stuff they're telling me, that they're showing me this study that I read about the Jan 6 attendees, and the majority of those attendees had IRS problems. A lot of them had bankruptcies. So when Kristi Noem says they're just coming after me because I made a simple mistake, this plays well with the Republicans. They feel vilified. They feel attacked. Republicans do. They feel singled out, like Democrats aren't singled out, but they are. So this is going to play well with her base. And I don't know that she's going to successfully face impeachment, but I would say that the same thread they're showing me that goes through everything, meaning Trump and every elected official, and I don't really care if they're blue or red. Somebody in the past video said your spirit guides must be all Democrats. Well, 2 videos ago, somebody told me that my spirit guides were all Republicans. So, I want to say, I just wanted to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. And I don't know where that came from, because that's not something I would normally say. But put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay. Whew, it's going to be a wild one. I'm only 11 minutes in. Okay, now, the thread is, let me please get the guides back on track. The thread is crimes. They've often talked about, we have to bring Trump down on crimes. It's not likely going to be what we want it to be. It's not likely to be sedition or treason or whatever it should be. It's not going to be those things. It's likely going to be a simple, indictable, provable crime. So that's what's going on with Kristi as well. A simple, provable, indictable crime is going to take her down. I think I've said this. They're telling me I've said this before. I think that 2023 looks really rough for her. It looks really dicey. A lot of accusations, allegations that lead to an indictment. So I think that answers your question. Thank you for your question, Angelyn. I can't pronounce, you guys. When you have these French things, I can't do French. Boncoeur. Now, I know I have French-speaking people on my viewers, so please just give me the phonetic way to pronounce that, because I don't want to butcher it. Okay, thank you for your question, dear. The question is, will Social Security survive as the main way to provide income for seniors, or will it go through a radical transformation as our society reworks all the other institutions that need to be changed as our consciousness evolves? Wow, I just feel like I'm getting chills here. Wow. Okay, so the guides are saying we need to talk about short-term and long-term. Our questions, when they're broad like that, then Spirit wants to just tell me what's going to happen in 30 years, right? I mean, I don't really care what's going to happen in 30 years. I'm pretty worried about what's going to happen in the next 6 months. So I'm going to ask them to answer your question. I'm going to break your question down. Will Social Security survive as the main way to provide income for seniors? And I'm going to put that in the next 2 years. I'm going to break your question down. Will Social Security, because this is where we are, to be honest with you. It's no hidden fact that Republicans want to continue to reduce Social Security, and some of them want to do away with it. So I'm going to ask them the question, will Social Security survive as the main way to provide income for seniors within the next 2 years? Will it survive for the next 2 years? And the answer is yes. So the answer to that is yes. Now, I think another question would be, will there be an increase? Now, I think there was a modest increase, and I mean modest because everything else went up at the same time, which is really the terrible irony of it, is that your Social Security went up a little bit, but so did the price of everything. And Social Security is already so low compared to the living standard. Anyway, I want to ask them, will Social Security be increased in the next 2 years? And what I'm seeing is 18 months. Like, I do see the Democrats winning in the fall, but I can't tell you by how much. That's the big question, is we should have a blue wave that's like a blue tsunami. But we'll have to see. If we have if we have a super majority or a mandate, then I can see them in 16 to 18 months giving Social Security a significant raise, not a small raise, about a 25% raise, and maybe as much as 30%. I think that's significant. I mean, maybe you guys don't, but I think given the history of Social Security raises, which how many years? Probably 8-10 years before we had this one. So, okay, so that's your first question. Your second question I like is, will Social Security go through a radical transformation as our society reworks the other institutions and needs to be changed as our consciousness evolves? I honestly, the energy is so crazy, right? It's crazy today. It's crazy around me today, so I'm fully expecting and things are falling over. So anyway, I'm going to just push all that back there because I don't need to deal with it right now. I'm connected to spirit, and I'm in my own deal right here in my little sphere. Here's the question. I really think that's an interesting question because I do see Social Security going through a radical transformation. I really do see that. Give us best case scenario, which I'm believing. I'm believing that we're going to win the next presidency in 24. And I'm believing that we're going to come through this extremely radical changes that are going to be very topsy-turvy and challenging, and maybe even, a little bit unwelcome or whatever. I believe we're going to get through this. I believe we need to, for once and for all, deal with our problems. And in dealing with them, it's going to be unsettling. But once we get through that, what they show me is this really nice time of rebuilding and this joyness, and America could really transform into this country that is more, I don't know, more like a socialized democracy. But why I'm talking about that is because when you talk about radical transformation of our Social Security, as our consciousness evolves, I actually also see there being what do you call that when I know there's a name for it, but Spirit's not giving it to me, where they give you a payment every month. Minimum income, something income, basic income, something. They're trying to get it to me, but it's a payment you get every month, regardless. I mean, you just get $1,000 a month, whatever it is. And it's not linked to Social Security. It's across the board. Everybody gets it. So I can see this happening. So I see really good things if we can eat all our peas and carrots. I don't like peas and carrots. So if we can eat all our peas and carrots until we just don't want to ever see a pea or carrot. No offense to you people that like peas and carrots. If we can eat all our vegetables, if we can do all our homework, if we can do the hard work, if we can stay engaged and not push it off, which is what we tend to do, then there's a really good time coming for America. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. Patricia M. says, will the former guy, which is Trump, be found to be she's using an acronym. Okay. Will Trump be found to be an illegitimate president? If so, will the SCOTUS he appointed be removed? Okay, this is a really good question too, because I don't know how, I haven't gotten the same information that others have gotten. Let me ask them again. Because you guys don't understand. I don't think anybody understands. Or maybe we don't want to understand, which is fine too. For us to say that our president a president of the United States is illegitimate. It's history making, but it also, once again, the guides want to say, it makes America weak, and it makes us weak to our competitors, to our enemies, and it sets a precedent that just because we think Trump is illegitimate, somebody could think that Biden is illegitimate. We need to really first sort out our laws and be very clear about the laws. And this is what sort of paralyzes Democrats all the time, is they're afraid that the Republicans will use what they do against them, like for the filibuster. Perfect example. Well, we all know that the Republicans are going to use anything. It doesn't matter if you do it first or not. It doesn't matter. They're going to go to the bottom of the barrel. They're going to get in the mud and sling it. But that seems to be what paralyzes the Democrats. So will he be found to be an illegitimate president? 1-800-SPIRIT Guides. Press 1 for complaints. I don't think so. I'm happy to be wrong. Thrilled. I will send a dozen red roses and a congratulations card to whatever psychic gets this right if I get it wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. Thrilled to be wrong. Right now, today, June 30th, 2022, I hear no. Can that energy change? Yes. So then your next question is, will the SCOTUS he appointed be removed? Not for that reason. The SCOTUS that he appointed are going to be removed for a lot of other reasons. Most of them have to do with what the guides just talked about. Provable crimes. Provable crimes. This is how we get through this. We have to have a law on the books. Not one that we think should be there, but a law on the books that is 100% slam dunk, provable, indictable, and, judgment, complete all the way through to sentencing. Okay. I wish I could tell you he should be an illegitimate. He should be charged for treason. He should be. He should be. I think there's less than a 10% chance that that's going to happen. Less than a 10% chance. And it's infuriating to me. So don't get this wrong. I just tell you what Spirit tells me. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. If you want somebody to tell you what you want to hear, it's not this place. Because that's why I had to come up with 1-800-SPIRIT Guides. Press 1 for complaints, because there's a lot of complaints. Okay. Thank you so much, though. I'm sorry, Patricia. I'm sorry. Okay. Have courage, be kind, says. Can we talk about what Malcolm Nance warned us about? She ordered the book, or he ordered the book after watching his interview. And right. Maybe it's too much for now. Okay. Right. I put this question in here because Spirit thought it was important for me to talk about, apparently, because I'm not prepared for this. But I'm not prepared for any of this. I just read it, and then here we go. Malcolm Nance was in the Navy, and he's an intelligence guy, and he's got multiple books out, and he's been on every major news channel, and he is very respected as an intelligence leader. He gets it, okay? So when he talks, people should listen. Malcolm is currently went to Ukraine and joined up. He's actually fighting in Ukraine near the front right now. He is really a man who stands behind his principles. Now, he's written a new book. Now, he finished this book a year ago. And this book is on pre-order right now. His name is Malcolm Nance. And go get the book, because what he's asking people to do is, if we pre-order the book will be higher in the rankings, and then people will take the stuff that's in the book very seriously, because he should be a psychic, right? Everything he wrote in the book is coming true right now. I mean, he wrote it he finished it a year ago, and the stuff he said was going to happen is happening. And the problem is that it's worse than he thought. Malcolm is really worried about, we talked about this in the part 1. This was a question in part 1. Malcolm is really worried about the Civil War angle. He's worried about the guns. He's worried about the militias. He's worried about the malcontents. He's worried about the amount of firepower in this country that could be utilized to have an uprising against our democracy. We talked about this in the last video, but the thing is that I don't see it. No, I said it in the last video. I see scary stuff. Okay? And if you go back to my videos right after Jan 6, you're going to see some scary stuff that I said. Okay? You go back and watch. Okay? That stuff did not happen in the way I thought it would happen last year. I think that it could very well happen this year. Now, what I saw was intimidation. I saw bubbas. There's no other way to describe them. I'm from the South, and I can use that word. With guns, big guns, standing outside of your Walgreens, your CVS, standing outside a Target, standing outside of the mall, just intimidating people because they can. Because they can. Now, of course, these are white bubbas. So there's that. Also, I see these people intimidating people at voting polls. So, yes, I do see flashpoints. There's the word again. They keep saying it over and over again. You're going to see this on the news. You're going to hear them say this word on the news. I promise you. I see flashpoints of violence. For sure. For sure. But I do not see an entire civil war. I do not see a coordinated, multi-state uprising that threatens our democracy. Listen, they can threaten our democracy a lot easier by running people for your mayors and your school boards, running people for your governors and your state offices. That's where they're going to steal our democracy, is in those seats and in those places. The guys with the guns are just whipped cream on top of the cherry pie they're making. You know, it is intimidation. It is terrible. And it does carry with it the energy of civil war. And we are astrologically, if you go talk to any astrologers, we are in the similar planets or in the similar places that they were during the American Revolution and during the American Civil War. So we are repeating this energy. I agree, the energy is there. I don't think it's going to become what some people think it's going to become. But I'm happy for people to think it will, because the more we press the Democrats to do something, the better off we're all going to be. Okay? And I want to say this because they're saying, right, I want to hand it to Biden because I do believe that the reason that the guides show me after Jan 6 last year didn't happen is because of what Biden did. He basically went after all of those militias, the Enrique Tarrio or whatever his name is, all of these, the leaders of these militias, and he put them in jail. So people wanted Trump to be put in jail. But honestly, the people that could have caused us the most violence and the most harm are those people that Biden did put in jail, that are still in jail. And he's still busting them. They just busted one in Idaho at a gay pride parade that we're going to. You know, how many of them? 15 of them. Of these militiamen from all over the United States, all came together to create a lot of pain and agony. And they got busted before they could do that. So I want to give credit to Biden in this case, that I think that he's really doing a good job of keeping the violence down. Okay? But yes, check out Malcolm Nance's new book. And if it changes, if something changes, I will tell you. I mean, I will tell you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So Gillian Payne. I don't know if I understand his questions. Hi, Susan. Would you please ask your guides that the Democrats will effectively remedy the safety gaps revealed in the election process and the failed coup before the 2024 election? If not, will the Republicans attempt a 2024 coup? And what will be the outcome? Inquiring minds want to know. That is such a good question. Only one emergency at a time, please. I'm still focused on our current emergency. 2024, you're absolutely right. They are, just because the Democrats win, okay, so this is a whole lot of stuff they're telling me. Okay, a whole lot of stuff. So first of all, if we get a blue tsunami, that's not going to affect the local offices which control the voting, you know? So that doesn't help us. So then they showed me, wait, I got to stay with one thing at a time. Just one thing at a time. So let's go back to the question. The question is that will the safety gaps? No, the safety gaps are not fixed because they've spent the last year putting more people in that are Trumpers, that are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and think that they can stand down an election. And I got a lot of kind of hate mail about when we talked about this with New Mexico. I love New Mexico. You must be a new viewer because I love New Mexico. It is my spiritual home. I spent 3 weeks there last year, and I broadcast from there. So one little precinct or whatever city in New Mexico refused to certify the votes. I'm not vilifying all of New Mexico. Everybody has their crazies. Every family's got a crazy somewhere, right? So that was your crazy. But going forward in the 2024 election, we're going to have real problems. We're going to have problems in this election. This election is sort of the litmus test for the next election. In this election, I do see intimidation. I see attempted violence. I see shenanigans. I see vote irregularities. I see all of that happening in this election. So 2024, I don't think is going to be that good. I don't. I think it's going to be dicey. We're not going to fix our problems. We're not. I don't think with the blue wave, they can't take the power from the states. This isn't the Constitution. I mean, so we have to get busy in our own states. For real. Now, having said that, 2024, I don't see a Republican winning. I don't see that. Okay? I mean, still 2 years out. And a lot of things can change, but I don't see it right now. It's not even 50-50. Okay? It's not. I really see a Democrat winning. There's pros and cons to that. I mean, I want a Democrat to win, obviously, but we've got to do more. When we have the power, we've got to do more. We cannot wait for some consensus or whatever. We've got to just take that ball and run. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to tell you is apparently McConnell just said that if the Dems win in the midterms, he's going to step down. If you don't know, that would be a good use of this. So I said way back a year ago that when one of these jerks gets indicted or goes to jail, I was going to shoot off this confetti cannon. But also, if McConnell steps down, I will shoot this off. Now, McConnell's going to step down because he's got, if we have a blue wave this midterm, McConnell's got nothing. No power, no base, it's over. Game over. For, like I just said, we'll win the 2024. And and they're out of power for a while. The Republicans are out of power for a while. Now, that doesn't mean that these right-wingers are going to step down. They're not. Because they have a different, it's back to the Pence question. McConnell's like Pence. He has a certain viewpoint of how this union should be led. And these right-wingers have a different viewpoint, and they're more kind of rabid, and they're not going to stop for anything. So, but I do see McConnell stepping down if we get enough vote, if we do a blue wave, if we get a supermajority, McConnell will step down, which makes me thrilled, really thrilled. Okay, thank you for your question. HC says, what will happen to the Republican states who won't certify their elections? Will they be forced to certify them like New Mexico? Yes, they will have to certify them. I did talk about this before. The court, we do have a system of checks and balances, and this is what has saved our butt so far. At least there was one general who stood up. There was one vice president who stood up. There was one judge who stood up, right? All it takes in some cases is one. And in New Mexico, they were forced to certify, and I see this. Now, what I talked about, I think in the last video, or if not, it's in some video, that I can see Biden having to send in the National Guard. I honestly do see that. I honestly think that we could get to such a flashpoint in some cities that some sort of temporary martial law is created. So, yes, does that answer your question? But despite that, it quelled, the martial law, the guard that comes in, they quell the violence, they quell the uprising or the civil unrest or whatever you want to call it. And then everything they're saying to me, they're showing me everything gets, what is that word? Come on. It's when you clean everything, it's like sanitized. It's sanitized. Now, this is an important word because what that would mean is that the left is impinging and the right is impinging. And to have a good, clear, clean vote, you don't want any impingements. You don't want any outside influences, whether it's from the right or from the left, right? So sanitized, neutralized. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you so much. Calliope says, thank you for your question, Calliope. Okay. Calliope wants to know, ask if the Supreme Court would uphold a woman's family's rights to medical, physical, socioeconomic damages due to forced birth. Would you ask if the Supreme Court would uphold damages to family and death of a woman forced to carry a child? I'll ask again. Let me ask again. There's two questions here, Spirit. The first question is economic damages due to forced birth. I think that your problem, Spirit, is having me stare at the words forced birth. They don't see this as forced birth, so the whole premise of your question would be nullified. So you understand, birth is a natural thing that happens in a person's body. And they have already decided that there isn't forced sex, or that in the case of forced sex, the baby is still a natural byproduct of the woman's physical anatomy, and it has to happen. So I don't think your question, they don't agree with your question. So the premise of your question wouldn't hold up in our current situation. So, you guys, we can't just go back to this Supreme Court with these questions. The answer is going to be no. They don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing. We've got to get rid of the people on the Supreme Court, and we did talk about that in the first video. I do see 2 or 3 Supreme Court justices leaving. People keep asking if Roberts is going to leave, and I don't see it, but maybe there's energy starting to grow around him being removed. But there's some still bombshells or bombshell information that hasn't been vetted. It's public to a degree, but it hasn't been vetted, and therefore it's not actionable. And once it gets vetted, the Supreme Court is going to go through some things, okay? I I want to tell you, Calliope, I agree with you, and I think it's forced birth, and I agree with everything you're saying, but the Supreme Court wouldn't agree to that. Nancy the Water Chick says, will older women, the ones who fought the first time around, step up? Will these 60 plus start getting employed, and or businesses that grow the power of the oppressed start being heard? Will we spread our wings and protect all folks under threat? Will these 60 plus start getting employed, and or businesses that grow the power of the start being heard? Yes, the answer is yes. And I, again, Spirit wants you to manage your expectations, because I think going forward, that's the best advice that Spirit can give you. So I want you to see it like this. We're talking about women, and we're talking about women that are 90 all the way down to 15. Okay. And the 90, let's just say the older women, the 60 plus women, some of them are Republicans and some of them are Democrats. And here's how a lot of them, let's just talk about the Republicans first. The Republicans, and they've said this many times, the Republican women are women. And when you have a granddaughter or a daughter who has a medical emergency and needs to have an abortion to save her life and can't, that is going to make her a Democrat in about 5 seconds. I've seen Republicans turn into Democrats over the Affordable Care Act. It's possible. When these things impact their personal lives, they get with the program really quickly. And women, mothers, they're going to want to help their daughters. And they're going to see this as an overreach into their lives. Now, a lot of these women can afford to get on a plane and go to Mexico or go to a state that has access to abortions. But where they're going to get caught is in these medical emergencies, which happen more often than you think. You don't have time to fly somewhere. You maybe have an hour. You may have 30 minutes. And your vote just might have killed your daughter. That's going to have an impact, folks. Okay? So on that end, yes, those women are going to start coming closer to the middle. Now, the beautiful thing that I saw is, and I didn't talk about, and I want to talk about, because I think the guides talked about baby boomers, and they talked about baby boomers in a way that baby boomers really took offense at. But you have to understand, the guides were talking about the baby boomers from Gen Z's perspective. That's their perspective, not my perspective. Okay? It would be helpful if we can see everyone's perspective and not just get locked in our own. Not get our back up because somebody says baby boomers didn't do or did do. Okay? We don't have time for that, folks. We don't have time for someone to get your back up. We need to all be together on the same team. Okay? So the beautiful thing that I see, and it's truly beautiful, is I see these women that are 60 plus or 50 plus, and these women were marching in the 70s, right? They were those women that helped overturn or helped create Roe v. Wade. They were those women that marched for rights, for all kinds of things. Those women might not be so much ready to get in the marches, to get in the thick of things. But what's going to happen is this synergy of these older women coming together with these younger women, because the older women have information, they have knowledge. This is how you treat yourself when you've been tear gassed. This is how you get arrested so that you don't get injured or beaten up. This is how you keep yourself safe. This is what you do, right? So there's a role, a beautiful role and a beautiful synergy between these older women that were marching that maybe can't get in that fray for whatever reason, for health or mobility, but they're still going to be on the sidelines. They're going to be on the sidelines perhaps with the medical tent, or they're going to be at the meetings passing along their information. And Spirit would like to see all of us come together and work together and share our perspectives. Just because you're a baby boomer doesn't mean that you don't have something to offer the Gen Zers. And just because you're a Gen Zer doesn't mean that you can't help the baby boomers. We have to come together. If we allow all of these generational influences to splinter us, we're done for. Okay? So that's the big next problem. Spirit has said, these Gen Zers, these kids are going to come in, they're going to vote, they're going to push us over the finish line. But after that, they're very disillusioned with the Democrats, very disillusioned with their older, all the generations above them. But it would be better if instead of us being mad at them for being disillusioned with us and for them to be disillusioned with us, it would be better if we all sat down and said, let's talk. Let's not place any blame anywhere. That's not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to help us. Let's put it all behind us and let's start where we stand. And let's make a plan for 24. Let's make a plan for 26 and 28. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you so much for your question. Martha Spillman says she wants to know if the filibuster will be abolished or set aside temporarily after the midterms in order to get legislation passed with a simple majority. I've read on this before, but I don't have any idea what they said before. Right. Okay. Right. So, it's bizarre. It's like they skip over the filibuster. I mean, I can't explain this. Remember how the guides keep talking about dissolution? And in the last video, part 1, they talked about we are dissolving all of these institutions. They just skipped over the filibuster and went straight to the Electoral College. I swear to God. So I'm not saying that the Electoral College is going to be, demolished or changed this year or even next year. But I'm saying that I don't know why they skipped over the filibuster and went straight to the Electoral College. I have heard them say that the Electoral College will be changed. It's not working. It's not effective. It's not an effective representation of our voters. And that's getting more out of resonance, more out of registration. Why do they come up with these words? I don't understand. Something in registration, both lines match and you see it as one line. When it's out of registration, you can't read it. All the lines are double and triple. Okay? So it's not effective. So the filibuster, I think, will they set it aside? I keep hearing no. I hate when I get these things. See, this is why I argue with them. This is what they do in my own personal life. No, Susan. I'm like, why not? Anyway, maybe I should call 1-800-SPIRIT Guides and press 1 for complaints. All right. It's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating when I go into that energy. I don't see it. It can happen. Like somebody said, I think it was AOC said, AOC did a great little interview on that guy, Stephen Colbert, on Stephen Colbert's thing. And she said, even if we just went to a standing filibuster, just put it back to where it was, right? Make it do what it was set out to do. We may go to a standing or a talking or some sort of filibuster like that, but I don't know why they don't want to talk about the filibuster being abolished. It makes me so mad. If we have a blue wave and we have a lot of freshmen, congressmen, and women and senators, they will do that stuff. There are no sacred cows. Okay. Our problem is we don't have term limits, and we have these people that have been in office for decades. And they have all these sacred cows. They care more about the institution than they do about actually getting things done. And again, dissolving, right? They keep bringing it back. The institution, dissolving the institution. There are no sacred cows. If we bring in these younger new freshmen, they will get rid of this stuff. They will throw out every sacred cow that they possibly can, which will cause a lot of gnashing of teeth. Hopefully that, I don't know, Martha, that's the best I can do for your question. I don't know what else to tell you. I wish they would just say yes or no, and then I could go on to the next question, but they just want to talk a lot. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Mamavation, thank you for your question. Will the FDA take action on reevaluating toxic indirect additives that they allow into the food supply, like PFAS, forever chemicals, used on manufacturing equipment and plastics? There's lots of movement with NGOs pressing them on these issues this year to make our food supply safer. I talked about this in the last video about meat. Our food supply is not safe, and it is at risk of being sabotaged, is the word that they just used. And I'm not even talking about PFASs. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about simple sabotage. You know what I mean? Like somebody changing a setting so everything doesn't get cooked, or doesn't have the same freezer setting. It's very simple things. Okay. Will the FDA take action? California, they show me California. Does California have a ban against this? Because I think California might take action before the FDA. If California has already taken action and the FDA hasn't, I don't see it happening. I'm sorry to say this, but the FDA, I was replying to a comment on the videos. And by the way, if you comment, if you ask a question, I'm very good about answering those questions. And they told me that the FDA was one of the things that was going to be dissolved, one of the institutions that was going to be dissolved and rebuilt. So, but I don't see it happening right now. I don't see it happening anytime soon. The FDA is chicken shit, is what they just said. Plus, I know that the FDA, that's my dog, the FDA has been infiltrated. There's a lot of still Trump appointees in a lot of these departments that are still wreaking havoc. So I don't see that happening right now, but hopefully that answered your question about the future. In the future, I do see the FDA being dismantled and put back together with hopefully more common sense and more care for us Americans that are eating this stuff. Canada and Europe has much better rules around food than we do. It's really sad. Karen Ettinger. Hey, Karen, good to hear from you. She would like to know if the judges who have been doing the Federalist Society's bidding will ever be held accountable for this betrayal. Also, will the Federalist Society ever be held accountable? That's a really good question. If you guys aren't familiar with the Federalist Society, which is Federalist Society, look them up and be prepared to have your wits scared out of you. Your first question is, will the judges who've been doing the Federalist Society's bidding ever be held accountable for this betrayal? Yes, dear, I do see that happening. Not every judge, because some judges have been much better about, hiding the way they've just been attorneys. They've been better about making sure that things were not quite so obvious, leaving some room to say, oh, you think this is what this meant, but I think it meant this. This is kind of what Trump does all the time. But I meant this, not that. Therefore, I didn't know, or he just uses all these loopholes. But there are judges that are going to go down, including some on the Supreme Court that have a connection to the Federalist Society. Is that Roberts? Does Roberts have a connection? I mean, many of them do have a connection to the Federalist Society. And then you ask, will the Federalist Society ever be held accountable? How could they be held accountable? You know what I mean? You have to break a law. Back to what Spirit is saying, guys. It's just, we have to be very surgical here. It's black and white. Either you broke the law or you didn't break the law. Just because they're scoundrels that's not a brawl. They're not breaking any laws. Just because they influenced, or you know what I mean? I'm asking Spirit about money, about dark money, because that's something that we can hold them accountable for. Have they broken any laws? Let's ask that. Has the Federalist Society broken any laws? Yes. They're showing me. I wish I could show you guys what I see. It's like the guides are going through all these files. They're showing me, like, trying to find a place where they broke a law, and they had to go back. They had to go back like 3 files. I don't know if that's presidents or decades, or I don't know what that is. But yeah, they did. They sure did break a law. Huh. That's a great question. I'm glad I asked that question. I'm glad you asked that question. Now, will they be held accountable? Yes. Yeah, they're going to be held accountable. It doesn't look like what we think, managing our expectations. They get their wrists slapped. It does hurt them. They have it's some kind of access that they have revoked. And their reputation is tarnished. So when the Democrats get in office, and then we get 2 presidents, like say in 26, say 27, 26. It feels like 25, 26, 24, 25, 26. So something comes out. Something is leaked. Something comes out about them that's a crime, and they are implicated. Okay, so again, it's like when all these, like Jan 6 committee they said after this young lady went in and testified that all these people are coming forth now. Oh, we want to come back and clarify what we said. So again, the Federalist Society will be implicated. They will be implicated. It won't be enough to charge them, but that implication will cause an investigation that specifically targets the Federalist Society. That investigation will likely go on for 2 years. And at the end of that, there will be findings, but the scrutiny and the publicity will basically render them powerless, because they operate in the dark. And so, and it's very secretive, but this will publicize them, and it will take away a lot of their power. I hope that helps, Karen. I hope that makes sense. I mean, I learned some things, so hopefully that works. Pat Boyette says she would like to know, or he would like to know, the energy around Abigail Spanberger's chances of winning her congressional seat from the 7th District in VA, Virginia. Thank you for... Okay. I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's an R or a D. I don't know anything about her. But when I go into her energy... I hear yes. I hear yes. The chances are really, really good. I hope she's a Democrat. But whoever she is, yes, the very, very good chances. She looks happy. When I fast forward her through her life, she looks a little surprised and happy. Thank you for your question, Pat. Appreciate it. Dawn Pap says, is there any way I can share which Republicans will be voted out during the midterms? Not yet. We're still running some of our, I think, aren't they still having primaries? So I can't really, I would say in July to August, we'll be able to really give you a good idea of which Republicans are going to be voted out. But right now, I can't. Sorry about that. Helena, thank you for your question. Says she asked about Ukraine. So many affected by this. It's terrible to say the least. And the world needs that wheat for one. She keeps praying for a good ending. Helena, I think they just said something good news today about Ukraine pushing Russia out of Odessa, and they'll be able to ship some of that wheat out of Odessa. I said in the maybe 2 videos ago, Spirit said it's really, really, really hard right now in Ukraine. It's terrible in Ukraine, just like you're saying. But it's exactly what the guides said from the very beginning. If you watch the Ukraine videos, of which I think there's 3, everything they said has literally come to fruition. We are at the place where the guides left it, which is Russia's trying to take control of that area, the Donbass region, that goes down into Mariupol, and they would like to extend that over to Odessa. I don't see them extending it to Odessa. I see them dug in around that area from Mariupol up like this. A lot of Ukraine has gone back to being quasi-normal, and that's why a lot of those people died in that mall that Russia bombed, because they're not really under attack so much. They're under attack from afar, and it's very random. But the U.S. is sending some long-range anti-missile weapons, and that's going to be put an end to that. I want to tell you this, Helena. I got this really good information, but it's bittersweet. But I did get some really good information from the guides. As a matter of fact, they woke me up in the middle of the night saying that Ukraine would even take Crimea back. Now, that's a big surprise because Russia has had control of Crimea for years, right? And they said clearly that Ukraine would not only take control of the rest of Ukraine, which they've always said, but they've always said within 3 years. Always. They've always said that there's a possibility that Russia would take control of that area, and there's a possibility that some Western countries would encourage Ukraine to give Russia control of those areas. All this has already happened. And they've always said that if Russia took control of that area, that Ukraine would take control back of it, that Ukraine would have its original borders all under its own control within 3 years. Now, what I think the good news is that something is going to happen by December. Some big thing is going to happen by December. And the whole, like the dam breaks. So it's terrible that it is now June to almost July and that we have to wait till December. It sounds like an interminable amount of time that just to be hell on earth. But I don't know. It's good news in a sense. And I think that's the only good news that I can tell you. And the guides also just showing me, the guides also said that those 2 countries would get into NATO, and they are. And NATO is beefing up its resources. It's calling in more troops from other countries. The United States, it has been outed that we, and the Spirit Guides have said this, that we have some special ops in Ukraine operating, which Spirit has always said. It's darkest before it's light. And I want to tell you that right now it's pretty darn dark. But as we go into the fall, it's the tide is going to turn. And so far what's happened is Ukraine has made some advances and Russia has pushed them back. And Ukraine has made some advances and Russia has pushed them back. What you're going to start seeing more like in August, is Ukraine marching forward, just pushing them back. It's more of a steady pushback. There's so much that have to be done that we, they've got, 2,000 still prisoners of war. You've got those kids that they kidnapped. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done. But it is dark, but it's going to get better. And we can all keep praying, keep sending light, lifting Ukraine up, lift up those soldiers, lift up the people there, lift them higher, give them energy. That's a really good thing to do. And then Darren has a Ukraine question too. The horrific attack on the Ukrainian shopping mall has resulted in obvious worldwide condemnation. My question is, when will this end? Will Putin be gone before or after the end of the war? So I answered the first part of your question, but will Putin be gone before or after the end of the war? He's going to be gone, giving me chills. He's going to be gone before the end of the war, because I think that's what happens in this. They've always shown me there's a strong likelihood of this strong man coming in to run Russia. Meaning a general, but the general is controlled by, or not controlled, that didn't go well. The general is, but I think the energy is controlled. But anyway, the general is working in concert with this oligarch. I guess the oligarch thinks he controls the general, and the general thinks he controls the oligarch. But those two want Mariupol. They want the coast. They want the coast for the shipping of the grain. But I don't see this. This is not going to happen. Ukraine is going to push them. Ukraine is going to push them back. It's incredible. I don't know where the strength comes from. I mean, some of it is that we are all now sending them weapons that are even bigger, even heavier, even more capable of striking further distances. You're going to see Ukraine striking on Russian property more, on Russian soil. You're going to see Ukraine sending these missiles all the way over to the missiles that are firing at them. So this is going to be a game changer, and Putin will be gone. Putin will be gone. I can't tell you when, because he is, he's got enough evil in him to outlive a lot of attempts at his death. But his power is waning. His power is waning. He is going to be going soon. Pretty soon. Might be this fall. It might be a little sooner, but there's been multiple attempts on his life. Don't get me wrong. People have made multiple attempts on his life. This could be why he's been moving around. He moved around recently, which is unusual. He could be moving around. He could be sending decoys to different cities. He's a hunted man, for sure. And it's not about him. It's about the power. It's about there's a Putin power center, and then there's a different power center. So it's not so much about Putin. It's about Putin's power center. Which ideology is going to win the control of Russia? That's what's happening right now. It's not so much about Putin. It's about the ideology. Okay, I'm going to move on. Joan Aurora, and thank you for your question, Darren. Joan Aurora says, will the ruling on coaches praying be overturned? We all know a Muslim coach would not be likely to get the same warm welcome. Will this now extend to all public school personnel? I know here in Texas, there's been talk about getting a Muslim. I mean, first of all, a Muslim, the word Muslim and coach in Texas is not used in the same sentence. So it's not likely. And if a Muslim coach did this in a blue state, it would get some publicity, but it wouldn't really do anything. Not down here in Texas. And if a Muslim coach did this, if you could find a Muslim coach and they did this, I would be really worried for their safety. I mean, really worried. You guys, I think we all think that we're all looking for fairness, right? We're all thinking, well, if they can do it, we can do it. But that's not the case. There's no fairness here. This is about, I can do it, but nobody else can do it. It's not about fairness. They're just using the law to make it look like it's fair. When you challenge the law, the police, or the local authorities will decide that you've broken another law and arrest you or intimidate you out of wanting to do that. Right? So I don't think that's gonna, it would be great. I love the idea. I would love the idea, other than I would be terribly scared for that person. So the ruling on coaches praying, or let's just say the ruling on the separation of church and state is not going to be overturned in this Supreme Court because they've already ruled. But when we circle back around and bring all of these laws back to our new Supreme Court, we'll have a new chance. This is the dissolution. All of those laws will be struck down, and then we're going to get a chance to go back and say, what do we really want? And do we really want the SCOTUS? Do we really want the Supreme Court to be the arbiter of our laws? Or do we want to have real laws? Do we want to just pass laws within Congress that are untouchable? Or put it in our amendment of the Constitution so it's untouchable? Can we codify it, right? We get a chance to have a conversation as a country about this. But regardless, we are going to have a new Supreme Court, and these things are going to get changed. We will have separation of church and state. It is in the Constitution. We will fix this, but there's going to be a period of time where it's not fixed. It's going to be sort of like this period of no man's land time in our history where, right, so they're showing me, this makes so much sense. They're showing me that the commonality here is that the majority of Americans are not represented. The majority of Americans want separation of church and state, but we're not being represented by the Supreme Court. The majority of Americans want access to free and safe abortions. We're not being represented by the Supreme Court. The majority of Americans voted for Hillary, and Trump won. The majority of Americans, are not being accounted for in the vote. It's a thread that goes throughout our entire society. And that's the problem. Go back to what they said about being in resonance or out of registration. It's not representative. The American people are not being represented in any of these ways. And that has to be fixed. And it will be fixed. It can't go on like this because there's more of us than there are of them. So it's broken, and we're going to fix it. Roy597 says, what's going to become of the third-ranking House Republican, Elise Stefanik from New York? She identifies as an ultra-MAGA. What will happen to her political career? She's got problems, is what they're showing me. She's got ethical problems, but she also has campaign finance problems, dark money problems. And if none of that works, she's going to be voted out. Her constituents will see that she is not who she says she is. She will be exposed as a fraud. That's what they just said. Well, all right then. Thank you so much for your question, Rory. Kika 357 says, will Gavin Newsom run for president against DeSantis in 2024? That you're making a big assumption. Oh no, Gavin Newsom run for president. Right. Well, run, not win. Run. Yes, I think he's thinking about it. You know who might run against DeSantis? Good Lord of mercy sakes alive. McConaughey. McConaughey may run against DeSantis. See, when I saw McConaughey talking about Uvalde, he's from Uvalde, Texas, so he should talk about the shooting. I mean, I think he's well within his rights. But when I saw him with the presidential seal behind him, did you guys see that video? The president, the White House seal behind him? I thought, have they lost their ever-loving mind? No one should have that seal behind them except for the president or the vice president or a spokesperson for the president. Sometimes I just want to take Biden and sit down and talk to him. Anyway, McConaughey, that's news to me. He was running for, do you guys know who I'm talking about? Matthew McConaughey, the actor. He was going to run for governor, and he stepped back and allowed my man Beto to run. But I don't like McConaughey. McConaughey is not who he says he is. He's a fox in sheep's clothing. We need to be careful around him and Liz Cheney. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I answered your question because I'm still shocked about Matthew McConaughey. Gavin Newsom might run against DeSantis, but there's a McConaughey option in there too. Lucky Heroin says, is Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh in debt again? And will it ever come out whom paid off his debts? Will it ever come off, and is he in debt? Yeah, I talked about this, right? In the last video, they showed me something about money running through his fingers, like he's not good with money. And I got this addiction energy around him, allegedly, and for entertainment purposes only. So yes, I think he could be in debt, but he's not in debt because he has what do you call that? What do you call that? The guides are showing me, but I don't know what when you have money that you can draw on whenever you want to. A line of credit. Thank you. He has a line of credit. These people act like the law doesn't apply to them. I swear to God. Especially the Supreme Court. It's like he has this attitude of, I'm a justice for life and nobody can touch me. Well, I'm sorry to say, but I think, I've already said, Spirit's already said, he's going down. He's going down. Will we ever find out? Yes, I think we will find out who his contacts are, who he gets his money from. Will we find out specifically who paid off his previous debts? I mean, his parents did, but I think Spirit has told me somebody then paid his parents off. Okay? It's just like they're showing me how Jared got all that money from the Saudis. How is this possible? Why do we allow this? We need to get better and tighter laws. That's what we need to get busy doing when we get our majority. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Lucky Heroine. Daniel Barkziski. I'm sorry, Daniel. Thank you for your question. Congress added money to the healthcare exchange for 2 years to keep prices down. Will they pass a bill to add more money before people have to enroll this year? This year. That's like the end of the year. Will they? I don't see it happening, Daniel. I hope I'm wrong. but I don't see it happening. If they do, it's because we've been held over a barrel about something else. Let's see. We should have our majority. Why won't they add money to the healthcare exchange? It's too late. It's something about the majority. They can't act that quickly. They're like over here, and this problem is over here, and they can't get to it. So I don't think so, dear. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we're wrong. Annie M says, do I see Lee Zeldin or Kathy Hochul becoming the governor of New York in November? As I'm reading the energy right now, and this changes, okay? This is a race where the energy tends to seesaw back and forth, so it's not set in stone. I have to tell you right now, Lee Zeldin has the edge. But I have read before that Kathy Hochul had the edge. So I think it's too close to call right now. Kathy Hochul kind of needs to get kind of out of her own way. There's something about her getting out of her own way. I don't understand that. But she needs to, she's causing problems for herself. Okay. But I don't know. I don't know right now. Melinda Salinas said, what kind of damaging information? And then I might just have to end this because I've got way more questions and we're at an hour and 20 minutes. Okay. We'll see. I lost my question. Okay. Melinda Salinas said, what kind of damaging information will the British documentary show about Trump? Well, I think the criminal parts are going to be known before the documentary comes out. But I feel like when he finishes that documentary, he's going to broaden the scope. I think that he's going to, I feel like he might broaden the scope and the whole documentary might change focus, and he might include more of the Trumpers themselves, because I think he realizes that he's really capturing a historic event, not only Jan 6 and not only Trump, but the ideology. You know what I mean? So I think that he has an opportunity here to show future generations an inside look at what is the word they just used? What is that word? I was getting something with a D, like, and it was almost sounded like demented, and I was just getting monsters. I don't think that's what they were trying to say. I do not think they were trying to say demented monster because it doesn't sound like that. Sorry. Oh my God. It wasn't demented monster, but that's truly hilarious. Demagogue. Demagogue. I should pause this video because I'm laughing so hard. Demagogue makes more sense. That's how they talk, right? They usually talk in words like that. Demagogue. A demented monster. I'm making t-shirts. I'm going to make myself a t-shirt. Demagogue or demented monster? You be the judge. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting punchy. I've been doing this for a while. I'm getting punchy. Okay. Oh my God. I think I'm going to end it on demagogue or demented monster. There's two questions I feel like I really need to answer, but I don't know if I have good answers for them. Above the Clouds said Elon Musk is doing massive layoffs. He said it has to do with his feelings that the economy will turn down. Does it really have to do with his finances? It really has to do with his finances. And it also has to do with the fact that he got information that some of his people were really talking about unionizing, which is also a bombshell because I didn't know that either. some of his people were talking about unionizing. So what did he do was reduce his workforce and effectively get rid of all those people that might be thinking about doing that, because he can't have a union. He's against unions. His place is in Texas, which is a right to work state, but there's clearly something about unionizing he's afraid of. I don't know. Maybe it's one of his suppliers is going to be unionizing. There's something there about unions. I don't understand it. But Texas is a right to work state. So can you unionize in Texas? Yes, you can unionize. You can unionize in Texas. But it's just harder to unionize in Texas. Okay, thank you. But yeah, it has to do with his finances too. He is not as wealthy with cash money as he says he is. Now also, this man is getting his butt kicked by Ford and Chevy and Toyota and Honda and Kia and everybody as far as electric vehicles go. And number 3, and this is really important, and everybody was saying this on Twitter when he wanted to buy Twitter. The people who are on Twitter, a lot of them are liberals, really intellectual liberals that have a little bit of money, and they buy Teslas. Who drives Teslas, folks? It's not Trumpers. It's not Trumpers. It's liberals, and he has just PO'd the liberals. So less liberals are buying his cars, and they're going to wait for a better version of a different car maker. So his sales are going down. It's not the economy. It's his sales. He's a fool. He's really a fool. And then the other question was, gosh, so many good questions. Okay. I think the other question is going to be AOC. Patricia asked, will we get rid of the filibuster, which I've already talked about. Sarah Jolly says, can I read on AOC in the future impact on the changes that are coming? I like her so much and I'm afraid she will burn out. I also fear for her safety. No, AOC is fine. She's like the Energizer Bunny. I don't see her burning out, flaming out. I think that she's an agitator, you know? I don't see anything happening to her. I see her, interestingly enough, they just showed me, I asked the spirit guides what would happen when the blue wave, when these freshmen come in, you would think that they might be liberal. But they're not. They're actually not. They're left of middle, but they might not be so left as AOC. So I don't see her base growing. I don't see her power growing so much within the House. So that's interesting. You would think that it would be different, but I don't see that. I think she's fine. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing. I think that she's a good voice. I think that we need all these different voices to represent the different qualities of our voters and our citizens. So I think she's fine. And all right. Kelly Ortiz says, will Tina Peters win election? She's under indictment for election fraud and was allowed on the Colorado ballot. She's a big lie supporter and a Trump supporter. I can't believe someone under indictment is allowed to run for office. Yeah, well, Texas, we have our attorney general, the highest attorney in the state of Texas, has 5 federal indictments against him. And he's had them for years, and he keeps escaping, delaying the law. He's just doing all the loopholes. That's why we've got to circle back and fix the laws, take the loopholes out. I don't see her winning. Tina Peters, I don't see her winning. So I just wanted to, I got a quick answer and I wanted to give you that quick answer. So, okay, I'm going to end it at 1 hour and 30 minutes. Listen, if you guys stayed to the end of this and you're still watching me, you get gold stars and ice cream. go out immediately and buy whatever ice cream or sweet that you want. If you're a diabetic, you need to be careful. Other than that, splurge. You've done a lot of work here. You've stayed the course. So do something nice for yourself. Buy some sweets, or go get a massage. Go get a Reiki healing. Do something nice for yourself. You deserve it. That and gold stars. Thank you so much for watching this video. Really, really appreciate it. Everything is going to be okay. Take good care of yourself. Remember about the roller coaster. Don't ride that thing. It's going to make you seasick. Disengage, unplug, cut the cords. Peek at the news when you need to. Otherwise, it doesn't concern you, okay? Get busy again in August because we're going to need you, but take some good time off for yourself. Hug your pets and hug your family and hug yourself, okay? Thank you so much, everybody. Take really good care. We'll see you again soon. For entertainment purposes only.